Hey, wanted to do a quick video this morning, just in response to Charles Bertou's video with Victor Wooten that he published a couple of days ago. In the video, it's a great video, you should absolutely go watch it. Victor Wooten is talking about focal dystonia and how it's affected his playing and his career, and how he can't play the things that he used to play, and also that it's affected his playing for a long time. And a bunch of people have mentioned me in the comments of that video. That's a Daisy growling in the background, by the way. Hello, Daisy. And a bunch of people have mentioned me in the comments of that video, specifically saying that, well, talking about the glove, which is why I wear the glove, because I've had focal dystonia now for over 20 years. And but also some mentions of how I've experimented with the carnivore diet, high protein diets, low carbs, and things like that. And there's definitely, I definitely have done that, but there's I really want to be clear about why I've done that, and give you, because that's not directly related for me with the focal dystonia. I'll tell you more about that. And the reason why I think it's important to, and shout out to Vic as well and Charles putting the video out there. I think it's really important to get the word out about focal dystonia, because many more people could be suffering with it than actually know about it. I have definitely seen a few people online talking about, medical symptoms, issues that they're having. And I am, when I listen to them talking about it, I'm like, they think it's something else, and I'm like, it sounds like it's dystonia, to be honest. So the reality is, I think that I read somewhere that it takes around 2 years to 2.5 years to, on average, to be diagnosed with focal dystonia if you have it. And the reason being is there's just not that much awareness of it. So my hypothesis is that there's many more people suffering with dystonia or dystonic symptoms, musicians, than the statistics show. When we look at how many people are actually suffering with dystonia, I think it's actually much more, because it's a pain in the arse to be diagnosed with it. All like to say, it's why I wear the gloves. If you've ever seen me wear these on the channel, it's because of that, for me specifically. So if I hold my hand up, okay, and if I put any tension in my foot, you can even see them starting now. You'll see this starts happening with me. So this is how I get tremors and things like that. But if I put my fingers on my hands here, it stops it. So as I move them away, again, I'll put my fingers there and it stops it. Now, this is just one part of the dystonia for me. It also moves around which fingers it affects. In general, the second finger, which is interesting because it's the same as Victor, the middle finger and my ring finger get affected a lot. My little finger as well. Rarely my index finger on this hand, but sometimes. So basically my entire hand, all fingers are affected by it, but the most is the middle two, and then sometimes the little one as well. I've had this finger sometimes go very weak for a couple of months off the back of the focal dystonia. And for me, I use these gloves as a sensory trick to help me manage it, but it doesn't make it go away. And the most important thing here is, and Victor mentions this in the video as well, is that you can't practice yourself out of focal dystonia. It actually gets worse. So the more I play, the worse it gets. You might not know, but in Leeds, I do a gig once a month. That is intentional. I could probably do one a week, maybe, any more than that, and I am directly in danger of my focal dystonia symptoms blowing up and me not being able to play for, a bunch of months. So it's, me specifically, walk a bit of a tightrope in terms of the amount I can play and keeping my symptoms at bay. It's something that I've got pretty good at. because I've had it for so long. I've had it for over 2 decades. So, so if you have got dystonia, just be aware that the more you play, it can reinforce the symptoms. Now, also, I do have it in this hand as well, by the way, just in case you're wondering. I have it in this finger. I haven't ever had any other things in these fingers either, but I've had it in this finger, which is why sometimes you'll see me wearing a glove on this hand as well. I've also had symptoms in my thumb. Now, how it works is your brain, the motor cortex of your brain, if you want to do this, hold your hand up now and do this, your brain just sent an electronic signal all the way down a neural pathway to your finger and made it do this. Okay, now on your brain there is a honeycomb type of thing, right? There's a honeycomb. Imagine all of these honeycombs, and each individual honeycomb deals with a specific part of the body. So if I want to do this, okay, the body just sent an electronic signal down a neural pathway through a piece of one of those pieces of honeycomb that's linked to this finger. If I want to do this, it's a different honeycomb. If I want to do this, different piece of honeycomb, right? So each piece of our body has a specific little honeycomb piece. Isn't that interesting, right? And what happens with focal dystonia is the honeycombs break down. The barriers between them start to merge and cross over and break down. So for instance, with this hand, sometimes I will go to move my middle finger and my little finger will move instead. Or sometimes I'll go to move my third finger and this finger will move instead. And sometimes it will all just cramp up, which is why some people, and this is what Victor was talking about in the video, some people, they get like these cramps where their fingers, and that's just, it's the brain kind of just like locking up, right? And not working. And that's what focal dystonia does, okay? There is, apparently you can try and retrain new neural pathways that haven't been affected by the dystonia. And this is where it gets into this territory of can focal dystonia get better? I have done a lot of retraining. I went to 3 different specialists and I've been down that pathway. And for me, it just seemed to make it worse. But for others, it might, like for instance, Julian Lage, who I saw playing last week, phenomenal guitar player. He also was suffering from focal dystonia and managed to cure his symptoms. So I think it's on an individual basis. Some people can actually work around this and cure themselves through neural retraining. Some can't. For me, I went down that route of trying to cure myself for that. My wife's not around at the minute, but she'd be able to tell you. I think it was maybe like 24 months or something like that. And honestly, I found it so psychologically grueling from an emotional standpoint that I just stopped in the end. I just thought, I'd rather just live with the symptoms as they are and deal with that than be on a constant merry-go-round of like going from specialist to specialist, trying to get better, the symptoms are just getting worse and worse. Like it was so emotionally grueling for me that in the end, I was just like, I'm out. I don't want to see any specialists anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. And again, I'm not recommending that for anybody. I'm just saying that was my experience. And for me, it was just so emotionally grueling that I didn't want to do it anymore because I just wanted to kind of like get on with it. You know what I mean? So anyway, now in terms of on that video that Charles put out, people have been mentioning diet. Specifically and tagging my name, like mentioning me and stuff in the comments. That for me wasn't, so the only thing I've done to help my focal dystonia was wear the gloves as that sensory trick. And for some people it doesn't work. So again, focal dystonia is at least my experience with it so far is that I've learned that it seems to really differ on a case-to-case basis. So for me, the only thing I've ever done that really helped me in any way was wear these gloves as a sensory trick. I have experimented a lot with diet. So something I suffer from is a lot of inflammation. I'm really, really susceptible to inflammation. So if I eat sugars or carbs or anything like that, it really sets off a lot of inflammation for me. And I did have candida, which is a fungus that grows in your lower intestines. I had that. I think I had that for a long time. Actually, I didn't know about it in my 20s, and there's a whole story around that, and I ended up finding out that I had it, and wow, that's such an interesting story. Anyway, it's a story for another day. But I ended up finding out that I had it and went on a very strict candida diet, which is basically no sugar. I also had no gluten and all of that. And I found that through diets that the inflammation that I experience, I can control really well through diet. So, but I wanted to be really clear that I've experimented with carnivore diet and high protein diets, and for me, it's incredible. The benefits that I've got from that, like more than incredible, like bizarre actually, but it hasn't helped with my focal dystonia. So it's helped with chronic pain and inflammation and things like that, but not with focal dystonia. Unfortunately, I wish I could sit here and say I went on the carnivore diet or high protein diet and it really helped with my focal dystonia. It didn't, unfortunately, but to anybody that is suffering with inflammation or dietary, I would just to put it out there that I think that your diet for almost anything health related, my lived experience is that your diet is the first place you should look. And if I had to take just a swing in the dark, right? And if you wanted to experiment with this, I would just go hardcore for 4 weeks on a high protein diet. If you wanted to, if you've got any symptoms like inflammation, joint pain, anything to do with playing as well, like not just playing, but I would recommend against going down the path of I'm going to take dairy out of my diet, I'm going to take gluten out of my diet, I'm going to take this, because I tried doing that actually, and the reality is it takes so freaking long. Because to see at least my experience, and take this with, take it with a pinch of salt. I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but I'll tell you, I've had incredible results through experimenting with my diet. My experience is that it takes 4 weeks to see any clear results. So if you're removing like dairy or something like that out of your diet, you're gonna have to do that for 4 weeks to see any results. And then what happens if it wasn't dairy? Then you put dairy back in, then you do gluten, then that didn't work. Then you do carbs. Right? Just do it all. My advice would be just do it all for 4 weeks. So go on an incredibly strict, high protein, 0 carb, 0 sugar, 0 gluten. Basically cut all of that shit out. Like all of it. 0 carbs. If you're suffering with like inflammation, things like that, and have aches and pains in your plane, do it incredibly strict for 4 weeks, and you will then get a really clear reading on, oh, this actually worked, or maybe it didn't. And if it didn't, then hey, then you don't need to experiment with dairy or gluten or sugar but my experience is that cutting out one thing at a time is bullshit. It just takes too long and you don't get a clear enough kind of like indicator of, are the things that I'm putting in my body having a negative effect in some way? So yeah, again, take it for what it's worth. Anyway, so I'm just gonna look at my notes. Diet, focal dystonia. Oh, so who gets it? Who gets focal dystonia? Well, musicians and other people as well. I think there's if you're doing any sort of like fine motor skills, you are susceptible to getting dystonia. And the interesting thing is, people that are good on an instrument, let's talk specifically about musicians for a second, people that are good at instruments have a high plasticity of the brain, meaning like you're great at dexterous things, you're good at fine motor skills, right? You've got great fine motor movements. And from what I've heard is that the higher plasticity you have, the more likelihood you have of developing focal dystonia. So it's a bit of a weird conundrum, right? The more fluid and quicker, not quicker, but the quicker you are to learn fine motor skills. Apparently, I've heard that it's the higher likelihood It's not that you're going to get focal dystonia, but you've got a higher chance. There's a higher risk of somebody getting it, because without going down a rabbit hole, what the brain is trying to do when the honeycombs start kind of all sort of like melting together and stuff like that, the brain is trying to do a better job of what it's already doing. That's the key thing. It's trying to do a better job. The brain's it's a clever little thing, isn't it? But sometimes it's too clever. And that's what is happening in this case. Anyway, I wanted to just clear that up. The diet thing, it's nothing to do with focal dystonia for me, but if you are, I would still recommend experimenting with your diet if you're suffering with any aches and pains and stuff like that. And if you're a pro musician or you're spending any serious time on this thing, you will be getting aches and pains. I know so many professional musicians that get affected by this stuff. So yeah, it's worth bearing in mind. Shout out to Victor and Charles for putting the video out there. I think it's really important. I think more people need to know about focal dystonia. And yeah. And Daisy's still grumbling over there. Anyway, take it easy, guys. I'll see you in a bit. Bye.